Hi everybody. So today what I'm going to do is go over denotation versus connotation and do a little bit of a review for you. So the first thing I want you to remember is that I had explained to you in class how there's basically, if you think about it, two levels of a word. Every word has a literal meaning where if you looked it up in the dictionary, it stands for something. It has a meaning attached to it, a definition. And this is what we call a word's denotation. And if you don't know a word, let's say you're reading a book and you run across a vocabulary word that you've never heard of or you don't understand what it means, you would naturally look that word up. Maybe you look it up on Google, or if you have a hard copy of a dictionary, you'll open it up to try to figure out what it means. Now, when you are uncovering what a word means, I've taught you, you can use a chem chart. A chem chart will help you sort of make an inference and use some context clues to uncover what that word means. So as an example, okay, this is a word that some of you struggled with from The Great Gatsby. And we went over this word in class and we've added it to a chem chart. So if you look here, you'll notice that we have listed the key term or the word under the K column in the chem chart, and we put the MLA citation so that as someone else could come along and find that word in the book. So it's on page 25. And we've added in this chem chart, we see K, I, M, right? But we've added a special column for context clue. Now, we learned in class there's 4 types of context clues that often are present in the context surrounding a word we don't know. Those 4 clues were a definition, synonym, antonym, or example clue. Now, it's not always the case. There will be times you'll come across a word you don't know, you can't find any clue around it, and you simply have to do the 5th thing we talked about, which is make an inference, make an educated guess. Use your own brain, prior knowledge. Maybe you've heard your uncle use that word when they were talking about sports. And then you use the text, what it says in the context around it in the text, and then you add to that and make your best hypothesis, your best educated guess or inference as to what it means based on your own life and the book. So in most cases, though, I said there would be some sort of a clue. So in this case, we found a context clue called an example clue, because there's an example of something happening in the context around the word incessant. So it had said in the book there were, quote, innumerable pottery bracelets that jingled up and down upon her arms. So just imagine, I should have worn my bracelets. Imagine them jingling nonstop as I'm walking. And that's an example of a sound that is incessant. And so based on the context, a student could guess what the word means, and they would put continuous because they would hear the bracelets continuously. And they could look it up in the dictionary, and sure enough, it matched what they thought. So they make a note that their inference, their information, was matching the dictionary's information. And so the meaning is continuous or unstopping. Now, how will they remember that word? So you want to make sure you put a memory clue. So if we're doing this digitally, it's great and easy to use Google Images and copy and paste pictures into your chem chart. So in this case, many of us who, we all live here in New York City, we've been downtown to Times Square. Think of that. Think of how it sounds. And what is that continuous, unstopping sound you hear downtown? Yes, most of us would say we hear cabs honking downtown nonstop. They're incessant. And so this would be a nice little image or memory clue, the cabs in New York City, to help us remember the meaning of the word incessant. So what about when we want to go to the more advanced level of word? Because that's the simple level of a word. So let's now think about that second level. And the second level is what I call the advanced level. It's when we think about a word's connotation and the feeling or that it evokes in us when we hear that word. Now, not every word has a real strong connotation, but you want to listen for those words and in the way that they're used, in the context of how they're being used, that really does evoke a strong feeling, a positive feeling or a negative feeling, and there are these other associated words that are typically in that feeling range that we think of when we hear that word. And that's what makes it special if an author uses it in an interesting situation. So let's look at an example. So I want to go over the example that we actually acted out in class. I want to take you back to that memory. So if I know the word, and I know its meaning, that's why I'm analyzing its connotation, because I'm like, whoa, that word is super interesting here because it carries a very negative feeling. There's this feeling that is attached to it beyond the literal definition that it goes with, right? So I'm looking at not its D for dictionary, denotation, but I'm looking at its connotation. And so I chose a word I know in the book, stalked. Now, most of you know the meaning. You know the denotation of the word stalked, but I am going to pull it up in the dictionary on my phone. And I'm going to read its denotation. Okay, so let me pause. So according to the dictionary on my phone, that word, let me turn off my volume, that word means to pursue or approach stealthily, or to harass or persecute someone with unwanted and obsessive attention. So as you can hear from the denotation, and you know this word, you know what a stalker means, most of you, you're like, wow, that's a really negative word. Now, this didn't have to do with anything criminal in the book. The author used this word to simply describe Gatsby walking into the room. But instead of him saying Gatsby walked into the room, and that's literally what he did, he just walked into the room, he describes him as stalking into the room. And it really makes us appreciate the figurative way that the author is describing Gatsby here, because it really matches what we already know in the story, that he is so obsessed with rekindling his love for Daisy and meeting with her again. And it's been 5 years, and it's been his whole world has revolved around this dream and this hope and this desire that he's had. So the author's drawing our attention to this word and his desire in kind of a negative sense, and that's what makes it such an interesting connotation. So to recap, remember that every word carries a literal meaning, which is its denotation, and that is the definition of the word. And the go-to example would be the word police. If you did not know the meaning of the word, and most of us do, you would look it up in the dictionary and you would find out that police simply means government workers who uphold justice and law. That's what it stands for in the dictionary. But we know that word can carry a very strong connotation. So the last tidbit I want you to just think about here is that because of life, because of our own unique experiences, some of us attach a very positive connotation to the word police, while others, some of us, have had negative experiences with police. And so we attach Words like harassment and repression and danger, whereas the people who have had the positive experiences might think of protection, security, and order. So this is a great example to think about how life experiences can alter how you perceive that connotation of a word. Overall, when you are reading and you come across words you don't know and you've never heard of, those words need to go in a chem chart because you need to use context clues to try to figure out simply what they mean. You're not going to look at a word you don't know for its connotation because how could you if you're not sure of what it even stands for or in what cases it's often used, right? So please don't put words that you don't know in a connotation tracker. I only want you to explore those words that you're very familiar with and you get a feeling. They evoke a feeling in you because you know they're often used in a positive sense or in a negative sense. Those are the times I want you to put them in your connotation tracker. So I hope that today was very helpful. And as you read chapter 6, please collect those words to go inside your chem chart if you don't know them. And the words that you find special and interesting because they evoke a strong feeling, explore those in your connotation tracker. Be sure when you are citing words in your connotation tracker that you cite the line, list the type of feeling associated with it, positive or negative. Remember, words that have a neutral feeling, you shouldn't be exploring their connotation because you're already saying they don't really carry an extreme connotation there. And with the words you don't know, when you do the chem chart, be sure to state the type of context clue that you're using to help you figure out what that word means. I hope this was helpful. Look forward to seeing you again. Have a great day, everyone.